This is going to be very interesting, and I've actually been thinking for trying to have this conversation. But first, I want to actually start with saying, be careful what you wish for. Just a couple of years ago, I think some of us in Israel were actually complaining, can you just work? Can you just do this on your own? I don't need to define you explicitly every single time. And someone brought our attention, and the paper called Attention is All You Need is now here and is changing our careers and what EU. So with that being said, I think we have now gone from non-deterministic products to deterministic to non-deterministic. So being a very cheap. So I want to actually kick it off with Kirill. 30 years in the space, you've seen this whole thing evolved. What do you see that has changed?
Thank you. Exactly. I knew at my university, at my first work, that there is AI. I had studied it at the university, and I knew for sure that it doesn't work. Maybe till 2010, there were no any computer about it, and thus still we wanted to make some decision support, and not decision but we called it decision support, and thus that was the era of BIS, as was stated before. And still, I would mention what is always strong. It is that you make the data-driven decision. You are intended to make the data-driven decision, and this is what still exists. A lot of things changed. Technology, you get all the data that you understood how to calculate, how to make statistics, how to understand what happens. Then you were asked why it happened, and the people had to explain what happened and why. Then people are just to explain what's next. So what? From the data that were created by the algorithms, the algorithms made the first decisions, like best decision, and people needed to explain why the decisions are made. And now we're in the era when you have the Agentic that could make the decision or could not make the decision, and this is the challenge to understand why it happens. So what changed is at what place you need to explain. You don't need to explain what happened. You don't need to explain what will happen. But now you need to explain why the decision is made. And from one standpoint, and from another standpoint, everything around the data, around the algorithms with the people. And now you have the Gen AI, which is writer, explainer, author, players, who can explain the decisions and efforts. So now it looks like more rounded, more algorithmic, funnier, still
Some mistakes here and there.
Yes, still, it is the system. Maybe
That is it. So, I gotta be careful. This is right now on extending boundaries to control benefits to Manish. They do that add on to this. How do you see this competing in public sector? At end-to-end advisory case of the context. How do you see this in?
Absolutely. So I came from back-end background, and now there public sector. One of the most important aspect is you need to explain what your models after. How to spells out. If you're in the learning sector, of course, you're taking certain decisions. You need to explain why you did the why you see. In the government sector, also consider the situation. Since you have got to get with a lot of power, is a lot of democratic things. So we need to make sure what are the decisions we are making, what are the things we are recommending based valuable. That is their explainability, transparency. This is very important. With Allianz, those they are not established in, but aspect of the issue, but I may explain to it what is happening in the background. And that is at the final end, you have to figure out what are things you need to rely on LL is completely played for the peer, and where do we human the with sometimes the loop because is that value that has to bring those adaptations in space where you will rely on eventually in the future.
That's great. I think maybe now I just proved to is this side of things. We got all of this in the enterprise, and we now have some building and good economy pays it in the work, which means POCs are out. But how much of them actually you go from POC I could put? Oh yeah, now it's in production. Let's maybe roll back a bit. So maybe here, Kader, from your perspective, if you were shared how you see this evolve, specifically, the enterprise where we services where probably would move.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for the question, and thank you for the audience for attending this event. It seems it's a small setup, so we can talk at coffee, I guess. The first thing I would like to highlight is that I'm representing myself. I'm speaking on my behalf. Whatever years or thought process and review is not represent company. Just to make it clear, and I'm sure probably the rest of the panel is having the same situation. Having said that, coming back to the question, I think it's very recurrent question now about this agentic AI is POC, is scale, is failing. I heard many times this MIT report, in September last year, it was mentioned in the previous panel that 95% are failing. But actually what is failing is the scale of these initiatives in production. So having production ready or production delay one is very tough. We all know the ones that we face production, because there is huge responsibility on making sure that what you take to the production, it's your image in terms of company, it's your brand. If I talk about my company, I am providing a network as a start, even though I'm working on digital side, on the B2B, but I have also the other hat representing the telecom part. A small mistake in the network might have a huge impact on my brand and on my customer experience. So it's very, very difficult if I'm the decision maker to decide if I wanted to scale this POC, this new initiative, which is amazing. In the lab, it's provide 60% accuracy, 90% optimization, whatever KPI I'm looking at. But taking the final call and take it to production and making sure it will work, it's a huge responsibility. And into that, the governments, the guardrail, the security, I have to convince hundreds of stakeholders that are on the same workflow. As I said, security, compliance, legal. So I think that's where things get a bit dirty. And if you look at the evolution of all the technologies, it happens in the similar way. The reason is because if you want to do agentic AI, there's no budget for agentic AI as such. It's a new capex that I need to convince someone to give me that extra budget, but it's not the operational budget that is running the business, and they need to convince them, show the ROI, the value, and then decide if this can scale and and bring that. So I think those are the elements that I'm sure, we're talking about all these keys that I'm sure 90% of all of you, either from the public sector, from the industry or other corporates, are not in the same, the same problem or the same issue. So the question is not agentic AI yes, agentic AI no, it's scalable or low. I think actually I would like to share with you something that happened in the last month. KPMG, since it's my business, the telecom side, KPMG ran a survey with all the, not all the CEOs, but the majority of the CEOs of telecom, and they asked them, what is your expectation from agents and agent API in your industry. And you know what the much of the response? I think 84% they said, I'm expecting to see the hour. Why? Because in the last 2-3 years, I think spending money, POC here, POC there, this improvement of workflow, this automation, and now I'm transforming RPA to something else. I need to see the ROI because he has a motherboard of people that they need to convince. So that's their issue.
One thing that has never changed in the boardroom discussion is what is the ROI that you're reinvesting into that. I think it's always going to be attacked. But, bringing Omar into this right now, you come in a very dynamic, you work largely with a distribution-based service, Nestlé. How do you see this play out on your side bets with have these direct impact colleagues, players in the organization, or if you are working completely all of the organization? It's way different. So maybe in a couple of minutes, if we could just set how does this change in the applications?
So for the CPG industry, our biggest challenge is basically to meet the demand of our consumers, right? So always giving that challenge of optimization, which products you should distribute, which geographies, which channels. So it's very data intensive and it requires a lot of cross-functional collaboration between sales, marketing, supply chain, and even finance. So let's say that the vision or the dream by introducing Agentic AI is to have such a capability that instead of going to 10-15 people every month, it can just do the computation on its own and recommend a specific product to send it on. Well, the challenge for us as a CPG is that we don't control the few, which is the data. It comes from outside, and from a definition of enterprise, let's say in the case of Nestlé, to involve the distributors, even the retailers. So it becomes a question of how much is that Agentic AI embedded into my process. So as a capability, is it expected to be a supporting capability or as the board capability? Because then it means that it gives the sort of decision that we should distribute a product or we just give it back again to a person. So then from a business standpoint, we see that the business stakeholders work more because they need to validate the output every time. Even if the accuracy is higher, the feedback we get is always, how can I trust this agent with the output? So then it becomes a question of, governance. Is this agentic AI expected to replace a person and take decision on its own or just become a decision support tool for our data?
I think that's a clear point, but I think do touch on something very interesting there. A lot of times we say these agents are capable, they already built on a good foundation, more with great benchmark scopes, but all of that is only in way our majority is not. Okay, so maybe as we honor for everyone to shoot out something, how do you prepare your year and giving it a job whenever it got correct, let the agents actually be what you read their strats out. So maybe two.
Okay. That's what another change or discovery that was made, at least in my cabinet, that all of the years we view that data is stored in the tables in RTPMS. And now, once of the sudden, documents became data. And this is a new discovery, definitely. And this is the challenge and the opportunity as well. So here, what do we do? Of course, RAV as a technology, and still together with RAG, we are trying to implement this knowledge graphs. All of that, again, very bold ideas, very bold theory, but now it makes sense really to integrate, create the knowledge graph, and provide it to the decision maker, make it into the orchestration of the decisions. So yeah, we start with a very simple one action agent. Now we are extending those actions, the agents we have about 7 at one point with orchestrator, with another agent to check on the output with another agent to make the explainability, with another set of tools to make the traceability and compliance.
Manish, maybe on data, we take so it is the right data at the right time, the right form, is always a key for the data. and the product data needs, but the data is a data. The landscape is also changing as it's steadily basic. The data part side was in the but as the structured data in it when there's a data. The PDFs basis on images or data, not the point. So obviously, so it also data the it will always get we have error codes happen this all of a sudden everyone is like to us pretty those chatbots, AI agents, Agentic, somewhere they are focusing too much on the foundation day. Without a good foundation, also you see that a reductive foundation, your AI probably debate and a bit. And actually, if it's spread, working on your foundation, quick POCs, of course, avoid the fact. Testing out these capabilities. A branch is test our your data, which you assume that it will be the best form. You start scaling it up. Letting the data artists. You expect that they but when you scale those things out to the right for the report. That has only used to see about 95% of POCs. That's what happens when you scale up. And scale is also multiple dimension. On the technology front, on the things that you need, on the extra data, team message, on the dinner started gas, and I still believe data is the function.
Then is going to get a boolean dash. The biggest is to stay in line to that theme this morning. Do you think governance helps in improving the data generally? Yes, no.
It depends.
That's the question there. Boolean. What about you, Omar?
Yes.
Okay, fair. Now let's move into the cost part of this lesson, right? Which is.
If you allow me, just because, see, I mean, it's good that we have a panel and that we almost agree in everything. But I would like to challenge some of the previous thoughts because I think it's important, and this is why we are here. I guess it's esteemed obvious when they are here is to really beyond the generic stuff around the AI, we're not all working on the same thing. But what you really want to know is what is working, what is really not working in that or this industry, where can I learn from that, and what type of learning I can take that to my industry and apply that. And something that I can just reject because I saw it's not working, that makes sense. I think this is the type of things that the audience and generally cement, I like to go to them because I learn a lot from the exposure from other industries. And I'm second this context because I think one of the statements that has been said before is around the data maturity. And I would say organization and enterprises have been spending a lot in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of budget, to make the data ready. And it's not something new. They've been working on that. I'm talking about my organization. We have explored the data mesh and across the data fabric and what is best things to do. And the federation, for example, because when you have a conglomerate or whole, it has 19 operations worldwide. From the east to the west, then the federation data, what GKP, and what is added. There are a lot of things that happen on the last, I would say 5, 6, or even 10 years. So data has been quite mature, and obviously never perfect, I agree, but data has been there. Now, how to read that to this agent and what is the new things that agent AI is bringing? I think for me is what do you want to do with it? Because nobody wants just customer data if you want to just do customer experience bit healthy, and you don't need the big data network matrix, for example, right? This is one. Second, and the most important is the reasonable and the decision. Those are the two things upon you. Before, we have the process and even the RPA, there was no cognition. There are items that they are taking decision, rule-based, give me A, I'll give you B, and so on. But now, the problem is that there is a reason going behind a similar way human works, operating works, and the second thing is not only reason and come up with something, with a decision, but you action that decision. I think that's where the big challenge and not the problem, but the challenge we are facing. I just want to continue.
Yes, sir. I think the consideration at this stage is the currency and more relevant the data is, it starts to even help you with your evaluations. Something as simple as your check data has been sick care years and years, that can become a very big factor for you to make your evals better. You should have more consistency in responses to consumer. Yeah. Slight audit, endlessly and slightly max short, but in interest of time, if I may just ask you to do a very big rubber fight, and what would you like to leave this? Who was the other executives here? One thing that you think we should do in the next 12 hours, and you do look at it as a team meeting, so that would be all benefit. You work with that. So maybe 2 years.
I still believe that's a way to come closer to other top managers. So we need to step in the boards and explain and teach and guide the boards to use the GenAI and agents for themselves. So to onboard the boards to this progress, to this step forward. And this will definitely change our organizations and the perception towards what we are doing. And also it will help to change the overall view.
But
So I think it's, the shift in mindset here, because, in most business scenarios, you're looking at the agentic AI as just a spend with a outcome that have some sort of ROI in mind, right? But actually, with the case of R&D now, we need to do some research, do some testing, fail fast, and come up with some no-code solution. The most CEOs now, CFOs, they're spending money just thinking in 12 months, you'll able to see some result. Actually, it's going to take more time. As even the internet itself took a lot of time to be adopted by everyone. So there were more like, the enthusiasts, the people who are specialists, and now became accessible to everyone in the world. So the same thing is going to happen with AI, right? So today we're seeing all of these, people who are trying to use agentic AI in their workflows, whether it's a small company, one-man show, for example, and they actually see it being successful. They can use it for 95% of their workflows. But in a mature enterprise, it's much more complicated, right? If you add complexity to our complex system, it just makes it more, problematic to manage. So here is where that most, executives need to understand there is a risk, and this risk at a certain point will give them some reward. But today, we're not in a state if you just embed something complicated like AI and say in 12 months, 24 months, I'll see something out. Because it's impossible to tell the future.
Okay, I'm coming from technical background, and I did well in the beyod master they put me. And it comes on that background, I used to love to expert text. But one thing I have learned to Kirill plan is you need to put business at the core of any edition. Keep business at the core, you like to solve those business problems. Read your operational learning, AI, GenAI, your agentic AI, and you can solve it all. In a time to keep it alone, you have something is calculated there, let's start with the AI. Then they put technology first. We'll use agentic AI, but what the problem of try to solve, they are not legal here. And eventually, those are the initiatives we face because you're not actually repairing your business. So, I like CapEx, for example. If you're making something else, what's the ROI? If you're going to mess up, then it's perfectly.
Father, maybe we'll take flow 60.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I have take. Yeah, I think it's just switch. Yeah, thank you. I have the privilege to close the round, so I will try to do a couple of benchmarks. So I agree 100%. Experimentation. This is nothing new. I agree. It might be a hype, but this is how the flow should evolve. People like me that have been a bit old to see the .com bubble. So this is normal in technology. So first thing, experimentation. We need to experiment. Second, very important, the ROI. Link it to the business. We are not R&D. I agree. We are business, and you need to drive business. And the third, and I think most important element is what I call the IP, The AI, agentic AI, is not the code you generate, is the domain specific knowledge, because your AI will be trained on your data, how my customer behave, how my network operate, and how the market moves. I think that's where you need to own that IP. You never outsource this type of information to third party.
I think that's a language we have to be skilled, and that's a very good closing statement to us. So in some periods, make sure your CEOs have had literacy, so send them to either a day or send them to a dedicated program, and if you have some spare part of CapEx, then we can see do the framework and you know how the hardware is used. If we prove it, maybe you will get some more questions. It's Mundas gets served by I think that would be the she is the yes, change is inevitable. So I think this is where it stands. So thank you all. Thank you, panel. Okay, yes. Yeah,